Recording in progress.
Well, thank goodness for that, folks. Recording in progress. Welcome back to the program. This is Chris live in central Pennsylvania with my guest, who it's been so long since I've been in the program, I can't remember the names. I think it's Bob and Dan. I think it's Bailey, but I might be getting that wrong. Gents, how's it going?
You're right.
How y'all doing?
Good. How are you today?
Well, I'm older. That's always a good thing.
Yeah. Taking upright and taking on oxygen. That's what we always say.
Exactly right. So for those who didn't see the program previously when we had these gentlemen on, I was out in Wyoming a couple years ago with Wyoming Catholic College, and one of the events they set up for us for veterans who are trying to adjust to civilian life, which again, just to let folks know, I did this 9 months after I retired from the Army after 36 years in, and they asked me to come out to help other veterans adjust to civilian life, which at the time was kind of like, man, I've only been in the Army 9 months. You think I'm well adjusted? But the reality was that, in fact, because the nature of the work I did in the Army with lots of civilians and all over the world, and also being involved with corporations and lots of things, I was already pretty well adjusted to being out of the Army, and it was never my sole identity. Like a lot of people in the Army, in the Marine Corps, they get out like, oh, what am I supposed to do now? I'm a Marine, I'm a soldier. For me, that was always part of who I was, but it wasn't just me. So they looked at what I'd done. They said, hey, we really like what you're doing. You haven't been out of the Army very long. Can you come out and be a mentor for these guys? So I went out there in a mentor role. They didn't tell me I was going to have to hump a 75-pound rucksack through the mountains and go camping and freeze my butt off in September. But that was actually okay. The weather was fantastic. I had a little bit of frost out there a few times in the morning up in the Wind River region of western Wyoming. And so one of the events before we got out there, actually pretty brutal. We had a horrible storm out there the night before. It was pretty nasty. We stayed at this little ranch there, and these gents and some others came out, and we were introduced to Cowboy Action Shooting. I'm like, okay, what's that? These guys came. This is Bob. It's his son Dan, and they're Cowboy Action Shooters. They're competitors, and they've done very well over time. Bob, why don't you give us a little background? What is Cowboy Action Shooting?
Well, we got involved in that about 10 or 12 years ago, I guess, or even more than that, and we end up shooting at steel targets, okay, as opposed to some of the practical guys shooting at paper targets. And we have our guns are pre-1900 guns. And as you remember, we've still got your old 1873 around. We haven't shot it much because the ammunition's hard to load, but we shoot single action pistols. I think out there we shot an 1873 Colt replicas. We shot an 1873, and I think we shot an 1866 rifle. And then we shoot an 1897 coach gun, the old sawed-off double-barreled shotgun. And they have different scenarios where you shoot maybe 5 targets with a pistol and 5 with a rifle and 3 or 4 with a shotgun. And it's all timed, and you get, and for misses, there's penalty time, etc. So there's several clubs around Wyoming that we go shoot at, and we dip down into Colorado every now and then. We haven't for a couple of years. The trip for us down into Craig, Colorado is about a 4 or 5 hour drive, and then last year the hotel rooms were about 60% higher. And of course, gasoline was $4 or $5 a gallon, and so some of that slowing up. The local clubs, I think, are doing pretty good still because they have their local groups, but you're not seeing a lot of the travel that went on. But it's regulated by a group called the Single Action Shooting Society.
SAS.
It's SAS, S-A-S-S. That's right. Yeah.
Sassy organization.
And yeah. And we have one here in Wyoming for the local clubs around the state, and it's basically an insurance program. But we have it's WYSAS, so it's WYSAS.
Well, that's probably something that might accuse me of being a wise ass.
You could be a member.
Yeah, an honorary member. They might give me an honorary doctorate or something like that. So,
That's right.
So, Dan, you and your dad been doing this, I guess he said, about 10 to 12 years. Did you decide to do it together? Was it just something that came to you? I mean, whose idea was it? Or did you see an ad somewhere? You drive by a county fair and go, hey, that looks interesting. I mean, how did you guys find your way into this, Dan?
Well, originally, like going to some of the Friends of the NRA banquets and everything like that, back when they
Wait
were
a second. Did you say the NRA?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right. Good. Keep going.
Can we say that?
Yeah, I think we could. I think we could still say that, but maybe in a few months we won't be able to say that.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, but back when that was a little bit more popular, back when I was quite a bit younger, they used to have some booths there to try to get some membership, but we kind of always knew about it. But back in 2008, I think, you started a guy here in town who was really involved with it at the time took Dad out when I was down at the university finishing up some schooling and stuff like that, and took Dad and shot for a little while before he had a shoulder surgery done on him. And then when he was finally healed, he kind of drugged me up to a match, and we just started in 2009 and have been kind of consistent with it more here in the state. But we've traveled to the World Indoor Match down in Las Vegas, back in the lobby of the Riviera Hotel, although the Riviera Hotel is now gone, sadly. The old national match at Ben Avery in North Phoenix, which is an amazing facility. And then, like Dad said, we've been in Colorado and mostly here in Wyoming.
That indoor match was shot with wax bullets.
Wax bullets. Oh, because it was indoors?
Yeah.
Okay.
In the convention hall.
It was in the lobby of the convention hall. Yeah.
Well, Bob, you said that I guess the impression I got is because of the lockdown and all the nonsense going on the past few years, that's really had a bad impact on these competitions. So people aren't traveling as far, so you're probably not getting as diverse a mix of really good quality shooters showing up at the events?
Well, yeah, we there's still those guys out there that do a little traveling, but it's not nearly as much. We try to get around to shoot. There's a lot of really good guys there, and we have a lot of fun. You met a couple of them up at the Box Bar, and the fellow Red Desert Fox from Rock Springs, and who was the
Ridge Ranger
out of Jackson. He had the long range rifle and that, and a lot of really good guys that we like to associate with. But with the gas prices and a lot of guys are kind of aging out of that. We had a fellow that said he was going to shoot for 20 years up in Buffalo, and he did, and he turned 80.
Oh.
And he was still shooting. He'd had 2 knees replaced, and he just had, I think what really got him was he had some cataract surgery.
Yeah.
But he'd shot for 20 years, one of the founders of the club up there. And we're members of that club. And it's really a lot of fun to shoot up there. We had lots of fun up at Cora, shooting with all you guys. But there's really a lot of good guys in that group. It's not, I've always said that it's competition, but I've won the same prize being last as I have for first. You're not going to make any money. You're not going to make any money. You got
to be careful. It's
Cowboy Action.
Starting to sound like T-ball there. You get the same prize, first and last place.
Everybody gets a trophy.
But it's a blast, an absolute blast. I wasn't skeptical, but when they're like Cowboy Action Shooting, I'm like, okay, whatever. I'll go out there and be a team player. This looks kind of lame. And then, oh my God, it was such fun. But I will say that I would have been brilliant except for one freaking target. I had a hard time hitting this one target. It was especially with the pistols. With the rifle, I hit it every time, but I couldn't get a single pistol shot hit, and it wasn't even a far target. I'm left-handed. It was on the right-hand side. I could hit every other target, but I had a hard time hitting that one target. But Dan, something that people may not know here, and correct me if I'm wrong, but my memory might be a little fuzzy on this, but as I recall, it's kind of like those on Citizen Man Radio. You all got handles, you got nicknames that you go by, and I just heard your dad mention a couple of them. Tell us a little bit about that, and then maybe share with us your nicknames.
Well, it's kind of dictated by SAS that you have to have an alias.
They call me Joe Biden.
Well, it has to be publishable, and I don't know if the group of people we do with would appreciate it. But they can't be historical names, so you can't say like Wyatt Earp and have it a different spelling, or Wyatt Earp 2 or anything like that. And like I said, it has to be publishable, so it can't be...
Yeah.
The really good ones.
The really good fun ones you can't have.
Well, at least you can't share them with anybody.
Well, yeah, you could use them. You just might not have them in the assess member form, but yeah, that's how it is. Like one of the guys from Rock Springs, his name or his handle, he went by Red Desert Fox, although he's going by Trigger Mortis now.
Trigger Mortis.
Trigger Mortis.
Is his finger locked in the firing? Is his finger locked in the firing position?
He's getting older.
I got it.
And then the guy from Jackson, his name was Ridge Ranger.
Yep.
There's a bunch of others. Doc Fear was the guy from Buffalo who just retired.
What about you guys?
Beefcake.
What's that?
Beefcake.
Beefcake, yeah. And Bob, what's yours?
I'm Long Shorty.
Long Shorty. There you go, guys. I don't have a nickname, although I did do Cowboy Action Shooting one time out there in Wyoming. Listen, guys, that was awesome. It was one of the real highlights of that trip. It was certainly better than people trying to catch salmon with their makeshift fishing rods. That was pretty embarrassing. They're all like, yeah, we'll get these salmon. I'm looking like 8,000 salmon swimming 2 feet away, and they couldn't catch one for 3 days. It was sad. It was sad.
We saw some of those pictures, and the streams were just full of fish.
Oh, man, so many salmon, and they were huge, too. I mean, you could just walk out there and grab them, but these guys couldn't catch them with bait. I don't know what they're using. I don't know if the bait was boogers or what they're using, but it wasn't working.
It wasn't working, yeah.
And then it was funny because this couple came by with like a 6-year-old son, and he caught like 4 salmon in like 15 minutes. After they've been trying for 2 days, and all that did was make them redouble their efforts. They didn't want to be embarrassed by a 6-year-old, so they finally caught some salmon. It was something else, yeah. Really? But it's gorgeous out there.
That storm you mentioned, was a vicious winds, rain, hail storm that was blew trees down. We saw. Who's the fellow that took the pictures?
Eric Bello.
Eric Bello. Yep.
Yeah, and he took some, what I call some amazing pictures of those trees were not just trees that you have in your backyard.
No. I mean, these are trees of like 6 feet or 4 feet around, something like that. In fact, guys, we were supposed to be in a different location in the Wind River Range. We weren't supposed to be in the place we went to. And we started out hiking up the hill. And, man, there were so many fallen trees over the trail. We were, like, going around and wasting a couple hours just trying to go a couple hundred feet because you had to walk so far around it. It was a mess. Eventually, people kept coming back the trail and going, it's impassable. It's going to take months.
It doesn't get any better.
No, it got worse because it was going up in elevation where the winds were stronger. I mean, these are huge trees. So we turned around and came all the way back to the ranch, and then we went up to a different place there about what that lake is at, where that Flat Top Mountain is or whatever it's called.
Flat Top Mountain, that was, wasn't that Bridger Lake, was it?
Something like that. But I'm glad we went up there because actually from a scenic standpoint, that's a lot more beautiful. And to be honest, from a 75-pound rucksack hiking standpoint, it was a lot easier.
When it's flat, it does that.
Well, it wasn't too flat. We went up, but it wasn't like the first trail run going around those trees, man. I was like, that's just crazy. I mean, I've seen storms like that, but not in country, not inland. I've never seen trees knocked down like that, in the inner part of the U.S. That was pretty crazy. That was a brutal storm that night. So, and then we did the shooting, and we had to turn around and come back, but it was quite lovely up there. Really enjoyed it. For those who've never been to Wyoming, it needs to be on your bucket list. Wyoming was going to be my residence. Back in 1994, when I left Germany, I went to Wyoming, went to Star Valley to buy property and become a Wyoming resident. But the property had quintupled in price, which, while that was annoying, it wasn't that much. I could have afforded it. But the issue was they wanted $1,800 a year for association fees to maintain it. I'm like, maintain what? It's just a plot. I'm not putting anything on it. I mean, I'm only making $28,000 a year. You want me to give you $1,800 to maintain a plot in the middle of mountains out there in western Wyoming? I'll tell you what, I'll pass. But
that's kind of turned into South Jackson Hole.
It has. I should have bought it. I mean, I would have paid a fortune, but I could have sell it now for a king's ransom probbe.
Oh yeah, thousands and thousands on that.
No, but it's a beautiful spot. It's beautiful out there.
Star Valley's real pretty. There's some other places in the state that are pretty that don't have that kind of values assigned to them, but property's going up. People are wanting to come out to the wilderness, I guess you'll call it.
Well, that's true, but I mean, I know one person that does want to come out to. Of course, Wyoming is the first state to grant voting rights to women. A lot of people don't realize that. First state in the union to grant women. That's right. Conservative state. Republicans did that. Conservatives did that. They granted rights to women to vote before it was an amendment to the Constitution. And it's a conservative state. But I'll tell you, one person that isn't itching to buy property in Wyoming or coming out there was Liz Cheney is her name, I think.
You mean the representative that we voted out?
Yes, by like a 70% margin.
Now the new professor at a college in Virginia.
Yeah, no, she's where she belongs, in the Beltway.
Yeah. Well, that's where she was from.
Yeah, essentially. I mean, because her dad spent most of his life down there. I mean, he's from Wyoming, but not really from Wyoming if you look at it that way. Yeah, Dick Cheney.
Yeah, he's from Casper.
Yeah, but I mean, he spent more time in D.C. than anywhere.
Oh, yeah. He spent years back there.
Yeah. But when we went there, we had an interesting experience. We had a state legislator. I think she was a senator that came out there with her husband. She was a lovely lady. And for those that think have these impressions of places, you'd be surprised about Wyoming. It's a very interesting place. A lot of Native Americans, a lot of black folks live in parts of the state. In fact, she's a black senator, a very fascinating lady. Very interesting place. What I like about Wyoming is that most of the people, with the exception of, University of Wyoming, where the Cowboys are at, the team, with the exception of that, and that part of the state, I find most people in the state be pretty rational, pretty clear-headed, for most part. And Dan's rolling his head like, maybe not all of them, but my experience.
I was going to say, not really Jackson.
But Jackson is Hollywood. That's not Wyoming. Let's be honest.
Yeah,
I mean, that's not Wyoming. That is Hollywood. They ruined that 35 years ago, 40 years ago, and it just gets worse and worse.
Well, when they want to get a permit to fly their helicopter into their house, we don't do that much here. We usually drive a truck. And
F-150 probably.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, Jackson Hole, it's a beautiful spot. In fact, my last night there, I stayed in Jackson Hole overnight. It was lovely, but it's a different world. It's not like the rest of Wyoming. It's naturally, physically like Western Wyoming, but there's just a different vibe out there. It's a touristy vibe, and then there's a Hollywood vibe and big money vibe. You got all three of those vibes going on, and the Western vibe. But I mean, yeah. So,
I think,
good.
I think that in Teton County, it's like 3% fee land. And so that's a premium to buy lots and land to own. And the government just drives that whole place, that just, and the prices. I read somewhere just in the last couple of months that the average home sales in Jackson were somewhere around $5 million a house now. Think what you'd have made in Star Valley.
Damn. Oh, now I wish I bought that house in Star Valley, that plot, I should say. It was beautiful, right on the side of a ridge line with quaking aspen all over. Oh, and it was all the sewage and the water lines and the gas were all hooked up, electricity. And I should have bought it, but anyway, who knows? But Yeah, no, but Jackson's a nice place to visit, but man, it's but you're right, that whole area out there, you got Yellowstone, you got the Grand Tetons, and almost all that land is owned by government.
Everything. Yeah. Like I said, 97% of Teton County. And Teton County, I think, kind of bisects the park. They've kind of, part of it's Park County, which is Cody side.
Yeah.
And that's getting to be, that North Fork Road up towards the park is getting to be a little Jackson-y.
A little Jackson, I like that.
The big money. And down by Cora, where we were at, west of there, is the joke is the billionaires have run the millionaires out.
Yeah, no doubt about it.
Yeah,
no doubt about it. But do you guys? I mean, you mentioned some of the places. You ever get up to Buffalo? Ever get over towards Devil's Tower? Those parts of the state?
Well, we get up to Buffalo quite a bit because they do have a shooting club, and we get up to Sheridan, which is just north of Buffalo a little bit. Devil's Tower, not so much. I mean, I've seen it from the interstate going to Spearfish, but I haven't been close to it. Don't go down to Cheyenne nearly as much anymore. We avoid Laramie quite a bit because nobody's going to the university down there. So, we go mostly Sheridan, Buffalo, here, and then down to Rollins because there's a shooting club down there. And that's kind of the extent of our traveling recently.
Rollins has, if you're ever around Rollins and want to go shoot, they have built a fantastic outdoor range. They've got 1,000-yard range, and they've got some rifle ranges, and they've got, of course, they needed a grader. I mean, it's flat, and they flattened it, and they've got some pistol bays in there, and the Cowboys have 3 of those bays that we can leave our targets out, which is a big issue up here because a lot of the shooting ranges where we participate at, people will come in with their semi-autos or their rifles, and they just punch holes right in our targets. Well, at that point, we're shooting soft lead, and those targets are dangerous to shoot at. So you have to take them down, get them fixed, and all. But they've got a really stellar place there. And then the city in Rollins has also got built into their, what would you call it?
The rec center, the city rec center.
Yeah.
Then they've got an indoor range there that they shoot 8 lanes in, up to 25 yards, you'd say?
Yeah, I think so.
25, 30 yards. And we go down there sometimes in the winter. They hold shoots indoors.
Cowboy shoots indoors. Yeah.
And shoot there. Although the club here, or the firearms company here, build a pretty stellar indoor range too. They have a 100-yard indoor range, and then 2 25-yard pistol ranges that get shot in. They don't shoot cowboy there, but I've competed in a couple of Glock Shooting Sports Foundation matches there as well.
Well, it sucks that, those guys come and mess up your targets, but I suppose it's better than what Chris Ellingson just said here from South Africa. If they leave their targets up, they get stolen.
Well,
that
kind of sucks. But I tell you what, the targets become the thieves.
I wouldn't be surprised if the economy gets any worse here. The targets might get stolen too.
They get to the junkyard and sell. Well, they're pretty heavy. You get an 18-inch square target out of that steel, and those get to be pretty heavy targets. It takes a bit to get them moved.
Wow. Chris Ellington says even the shipping containers get broken into. The bathroom has been destroyed twice. Poachers, people digging up the berms to get the lead out of them to take. That's
really.
Oh yeah, that's some pretty bad stuff. Like I said, look, the targets just get replaced by breathing targets. If they're stealing your targets, they become a target. That's my thought.
Yeah.
It's lead poisoning is a real thing.
It is.
But I got to tell you,
it doesn't take a big amount.
No, it doesn't. It takes a small amount. Well, I got to tell you guys, honestly, the strange thing, I never realized this until, we started talking. I started thinking about all the times I've been to Wyoming, which has been several times. I think every time I've been to Wyoming, it's been September. Over the years, every time I've gone. So, I mean, is it nice the rest of the year? All I can tell people about is September. It's nice in September.
Yeah. Oh, it's been beautiful this year. Did you see the picture we sent you from him standing in front of? Did you send that to
Yeah,
him?
I should have emailed you the picture of
Where he
in
was-
front of the snowbank.
Oh, yeah. Okay, yeah. That
Well,
was,
if you picture that, he was standing on the road, and he can reach up, and his arm is at 8 feet, and that snowdrift was about 4 feet above him.
man.
And we just went out. That was on the road coming in. It took 4 or 5 hours to plow that road out the other day. When they came through, they first plowed it, and they had about a 4 foot drift in there. Well, the snow blew across there. It blew like 50, 60 miles an hour. So it didn't take long to fill up that road. And it took that guy 4 or 5 hours with a rotary plow, and he was throwing the snow kind of downwind. And today we drove by that same spot, and that drift is melted down, but it's still taller than a pickup truck.
Jeez. No, that's a
So
serious
yes,
snowdrift.
we have. It's the same weather as September, only sometimes there's snow.
Road construction.
Well, we had some snow in September up there in the mountains, but I mean, it wasn't a lot, just some flakes and flurries. But I actually loved it. You know, I'm a Viking by origin, so I love that stuff. You know, I was just thinking that because of this last trip, because we went out there to the Wind River Range, I've pretty much been to every corner of Wyoming now. And the only place that I'd recommend people be careful is like when you leave Cheyenne, you head towards Rock Springs, heading out to Jackson or something like that. Just drive right by Laramie and you'll be okay. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Laramie's where the University of Wyoming is located, folks. The Cowboys out there.
Yeah, if you could get through the rolling closures they've got going on right now.
This last winter has been real tough. Talking about shooting, we haven't been able to shoot since September, I think.
1st of September.
About the first part of September, we had a couple of shoots around. But I think that I-80 has been closed almost as much as it's been open this winter for the past 4 or 5 months.
Wow.
And the wind blows down there. I mean, it comes over South Pass and it heads to the Mississippi River, and it's all downhill, And that road has been closed as much as it's been open.
Wow.
It was closed last night, I see again.
Yeah, and I got a rolling closure authorization this morning.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you, boy, that global warming's a bitch, man.
I'll tell you what, yeah, come on out. We've got snow in the backyard. We had about 3 inches of snow last night, and the ground was warm enough, but when the snow hit, it melted. Then the snow on top of it all froze, and this morning it was just an ice rink.
Slippery.
And it's been that way all these last few snows that we've gotten. So,
and now it's gone on the streets.
Yeah,
yeah.
August and September really are the really nice. August is a little warm sometimes, but August and September, you get the colors changing, the trees, and
and you start to get the chill in the morning, which is nice. I mean, I like that. It's like it's like beginning of sweater weather. Like when I was a kid, over in this part of the country, it's usually mid-October, late October, November. It's sweater weather. It's high school football season's going. It's the leaves are changing. It's my favorite time of the year. Spring is nice. Things come back to life, but I love fall just because it's got that nice feel to it. Yeah, so I guess I was right. I mean, by happenstance or by crook or by planning, whichever it was, I've been coming to Wyoming at the right time, September.
Right, the right time, yeah. And you always need a coat with you in that time, so you're ready for whatever happens.
So let me get back to the topic here we were talking about earlier, and that's cowboy action shooting. Is this something that's prohibitively expensive for folks to get into? I mean, because you obviously you have to have some resources. You have to have the firearms, or do you use them from a club, or how does that work? Because I should think that even the replicas are probably pretty pricey, and then if you do reloads, that cuts your cost in ammunition, but still ammunition's pricey. And then, like you guys were saying, now with the price of hotel, and I saw that, guys. I just came back from South Africa. Hotels I stayed in were 40 to 60% more expensive than they were 6 months prior. So it really, these hotels are trying to make it back from almost going under a few years ago. So, I mean, what's it like? I mean, like, is there a ballpark figure that you could throw out? I mean, if I want to become a cowboy action shooter, would I need like $2,000, or would I have to save up and have 10 grand just to be serious about it? Or
Well, a lot of the people, when they kind of get interested in cowboy action shooting, a lot of people just show up to the club. Excuse me, and the people are really inviting, and they'll let you use their stuff. Normally, a lot of the people show up with excess ammunition. So if you want to give it a try and show up to a club, chances are you're going to end up shooting at least one stage during that time you're there, which is good to get people into it. Now, with I would say with the resurgence of some of the Western TV shows like Yellowstone and 1883 and 1923, that whole Yellowstone kind of saga / series, the demand for cowboy guns has gone up a little bit. Telling me a lot of the guns that are coming in are foreign made, so they're made in Italy, and getting them into the country is not an issue. It was all the lockdowns that the Italians went through and everything during the pandemic that caused the supply to dry up quite a bit. So a lot of the old replicas of the 1860 Henrys, the 66s, 73s, those kind of common guns that are used in cowboy action kind of dried up. They're starting to come back. The prices have gone up a lot recently. Although now that Marlin is coming back, since Marlin got bought from Remington by Ruger, they're starting to come back with some of their guns that are used in cowboy action. Ruger's always made single action revolvers. They're a little sparse because I think Ruger started to focus more on getting Marlin back up and running, and now they're starting to bring their production back online for Ruger. So the prices have come up quite a bit, and the demand has gone up. So there's those. But to get into cowboy action shooting, you would take probably anywhere between $4,000 and $5,000 to get 2 pistols, a rifle, a shotgun, holsters, and probably your costume would probably push you up close to $5,000.
all right, that's helpful. I mean, that explains it. But you could probably do it a little bit over time. You join a club and just go out and see it happen. Sure. Buy one thing, buy another thing. You mentioned those TV shows which have driven up interest in it. So, Bob, I watched Yellowstone the first season or two, but it got hard to stick with it because there's no good people. They're all bad guys. It's hard to root for anybody. I was kind of rooting for the redhead, but man, I couldn't even root for her after a while. She was. So, but I'm not a Yellowstone fan, although it's a good show. I haven't watched it for a couple of years. But my show was Longmire. I loved Longmire. That was a great show. And, of course, it's supposedly set in Wyoming, but it's filmed in New Mexico. But it does look a bit like Wyoming. But I really, really love Longmire. What about you, Bob? You watch any TV? Or, Dan, you watch those shows or no?
Was the author of Longmire, isn't he?
He's in Ucross.
He's in
Craig Johnson's in
Craig
Ucross.
Johnson, who wrote that Longmire series, lives in Ucross, Wyoming, and it is about 20 miles north and a little bit east of Buffalo. So it's not hard to get there. It's not a very big community, but it's kind of funny watching Longmire. They had on the license plate, there was a 24 county. Yeah. And we only had 23s.
Yeah.
And then
that way they didn't get in trouble.
Yeah. And for wherever they were at, they just go like a 2-hour trip to Yellowstone. Well, it's not quite that far close from Buffalo. And they went on the Indian reservation, and that was a lot closer than what the Indian reservation is down by Riverton. But that was a good show. Now we shot. There was a Longmire. They have, and I think they still have a Longmire Days in Buffalo.
Okay.
At the end of the summer, and a couple of years we got to shoot with some of the cast members of Longmire.
Cool.
And it was interesting because Bob Taylor Robert Taylor.
Yeah.
He was the Longmire guy.
He's Australian.
He says, I've never shot a gun. And I looked at him and I said, I saw you shoot a gun on TV. And he said, no, you didn't.
That was this double that shot the gun.
Yeah, but he just absolutely loved it, and it was just almost like we couldn't get him off the range, you know. And then here's all these crowds that come with that from they're waiting for. We had really crowd control issues at the shooting range because it's little and it's kind of close.
Yep.
And they had
last year they did it. They brought a film crew with them.
yeah, the one year they came up with a film crew, and one of the guys that was filming him, he said, "Can I go out there in front so I can shoot back toward it?" And I said, "Only if you want to get shot."
Okay, look.
And everywhere you went, they had this boom microphone that you'd run into, and you know, it just kind of turned into a mess. But the people, the Longmire crew were fantastic. You know, those guys were great. And
So
like
they
I said,
they actually did some of the filming up there in Wyoming then.
Well, they did some filming there on the range of those guys at Longmire days. I don't know that ever translated.
Oh, for the show, yeah, because the show was all filmed in New Mexico, if I'm not mistaken. So,
yeah.
From my understanding, some of the stuff that they filmed from one of the Longmire days ended up on the special features on one of the DVDs.
Well, I've got all those. I better check it out.
Well, so do I, but I haven't watched them, so I don't know which one to tell you to. And I think somebody said it was either like season 3,
okay,
or season 4 that it's in there.
That would have been about
on
right.
the special features.
That would have been about right for having us up there then.
It's the only reason I ever signed up for Netflix. When Netflix saved Longmire from A&E, it was the top-rated show on A&E, and they canceled it. Rated canceled it. Best. It's still the top-rated show ever. The biggest debut, the biggest ratings ever. Made the most money for them. And these idiots. Well, the demographic's not right. Why? You don't like middle-aged white people? Piss on you. No, but when Netflix said they would pick it up, I'm like, well, I'll do a subscription to Netflix as long as they got the show, and that's how I got my Netflix subscription because I love Longmire. It was my favorite show. Yeah. The characters, the writing. Craig Johnson's originally from West Virginia. So I don't know when he moved out to Wyoming, but he's originally from West Virginia. So when I first read that he was from West Virginia, I'm like, this is pretty impressive. The guy knows a lot about Wyoming. He must have spent some time out there. Obviously, that's the case since he's living out there.
Yeah.
But you know,
and if you've read any of the books,
I got the books.
And you've been in Buffalo, Wyoming, you know exactly where he's talking about.
Yeah, you're right.
Because that's all he did. He took Johnson County and just renamed it and renamed the town of Buffalo. And he uses like the Busy Bee restaurant, which is down in downtown Buffalo, and everything. And you can pick out the spot he's talking about if you're familiar with the area.
Absolutely. But you know, you guys were saying...
Apparently they kept Johnson County because they added another county.
Well, you got 24 now. So, but Ohio has 88. So, you know, as big as Wyoming is, you think they'd have more, but those are big counties there. So, you were talking about the guy saying, well, can I go down the range and film it? Only if you want lead poisoning. I mean, listen, we laugh about that, but I mean, a lot of people don't realize... You know, America, we got a lot of firearms and a lot of Americans are armed, but there's a lot of people in this country never been around a firearm. They don't respect it. They don't understand it. They didn't grow up with a culture of being armed, of how it's a weapon, how it's dangerous, how you handle it and that sort of thing. So, I mean, we probably chuckle a little bit, but it's understandable that somebody be that dumb when it comes to guns, right?
Well, the Cowboy Action Shooting is... I would say the basic tenet of that is safety, safety, safety. You know, it's everything's downrange. You load your guns at a loading table. There's a person there that looks at the guns and makes sure that they're loaded right. You know, we shoot a 6-shooter with 5 rounds in it, so we have an empty cylinder. And that's where the hammer's down on an empty cylinder. And you load your rifle with 10 rounds and you load it with the hammer down on an empty chamber and then load it up. You know, the shotguns are loaded on time on the line. So there's nothing loaded there. You bring your guns up to the line, you shoot down range. There's a person with you there. And a lot of times, if we have new shooters, there can be one or two other people with them to help out. Everybody's very helpful. And when you're done shooting, you go to an unloading table and you clear your guns. And there's a person there that checks your guns before you leave. So everything happens in terms of safety at the firing line before and after, and everything downrange. And it is a safe thing. And it's just a lot of fun. But people don't understand that we shoot real bullets.
Oh yeah,
And
I do.
Yeah.
That's what Cindy said when she.
And that we were shooting down at Hell on Wheels one year, and a friend of mine came out and she watched us shoot a couple of stages, and she came up to us afterwards. She said, "You guys are shooting real bullets." Yes, we are. You know, but it is safety first and safety always. You know, and when you're up shooting there, and somebody's live on the line, if you see, there's counters for missed counters, and there's a timer, and there's a guy with a range officer there with the shooter, and if anybody sees anything that you don't like, you know, a misfire, just any kind of handling issue or something like that, anybody can stop that stage.
Everybody's a safety officer.
Everybody's a safety officer, and that is that's one of the things that I really like about Cowboy Action is, you know, your chances of being shot are pretty small.
Yeah,
And
your
I
chances are bigger on an Alec Baldwin set.
Yeah, that's an interesting thing with a single action pistol that he didn't have his finger on. I don't know how those. You know, we always say, and Daniel can give you his take on this, is that, you know, we have absolutely the laziest guns in the whole world. When they're laying there on the table, they don't do a thing.
Nah, they're stubborn. They refuse to shoot.
They refuse to do anything for you. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You have to do something
Yeah,
to make that gun go off.
absolutely.
You know? And so that's something that we really do like about that.
Oh, check out your dog. What kind of dog you got there?
Oh, we got a little poodle. She was with us the last time. She comes and sits by me.
Yeah, but some of my audience wasn't here last time, so I got to remind them. Let them know about it.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a poodle? Oh, yeah, okay. I see when she turns her face. Okay, when she turns her face.
This is Ginger.
All right.
She's our watchdog. She's 8 years old.
She will betray you for a piece of ham or bacon, though.
Don't they all? All right, so let me ask you guys this, because last time I saw you, I wasn't wearing a cowboy hat. What do you think of my hat? You guys like it?
It's all right.
It's got plenty of holes in it.
Well, that's because I was too close to Cowboy Action Shooters. I had to run. No, it's not a Jason Aldean. It's an Ariat. What happened? The story behind this is that a guy in South Africa goes by the handle of the Weather Hooligan. You see, in South Africa, it's illegal to report the weather in South Africa unless you work for the government. True story. They'll actually prosecute you. They'll prosecute you for reporting weather. But you can do satire and joke about the weather, and, you know, make jokes and get accurate predictions. And his predictions are more accurate than the Weather Service. So he's got an audience of a few 100,000 like on Facebook. Anyway, one of my viewers asked me to interview him, so I got him on, and he's like, "Could you do me a favor? I really want a cowboy hat." And there's a Western shop, you know, like half a mile away. So I went down the Western shop, and there was a nice Jason Aldean hat there, but it was just too small. I had one left. So I messed around and I pulled this Ariat out, and he really liked it. So on my trip to South Africa, he wanted me to ship it to him. And I'm like, "Man, I can't ship this to you. This thing is gonna be destroyed, you know, because it's a stiff one, you know." I said, "But I'm coming in a few months. I'll just bring it with me." So what I did is I made a saga of it, and every time I went to the airport, and I got the cowboy hat on because his viewers were watching and my viewers were watching. Then I flew to Frankfurt. I'm in Frankfurt, walk around the airport wearing his hat, and then I went to Cape Town. Then I went to all these places, and then finally when I gave the hat to him, because he paid me for it, I gave it to him, and he couldn't get it out of my hand. I wouldn't let go of it because I liked it. So when I got back, I bought the exact same hat, and so I got myself a hat now. It's not as functional as you guys have, but in the summertime, it's not so bad because it's got nice breeze blowing it there. So
Well, that's what we wear straw in the summertime too.
Yeah, well, that's what this was. Yeah, straw one. So yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, I was just.
No,
curious
that's a nice looking hat. You could wear that up here.
All right. Well, cool. My cowboy.
Yeah, just maybe not in January or February.
Oh no, not unless I want frostbite. Because with these holes up here, it'll accelerate the wind and it'll lower my temperature, my core temperature, no doubt about it. Yeah, no, but you both look like you're wearing the same hats when I was there. You still wearing the same hats? Maybe not.
I think this one is. His is.
I just threw on my a normal kind of more modern one today.
Yeah, okay. But Bob's looks like the same one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think Dad's is.
I think it is. Yeah.
It's the same mustache, that's for sure.
This is a custom made.
Yeah.
We talked about that.
Yeah.
That and this is part of the issue with Cowboy Action. I was just sitting there thinking, if you had probably $4,000, you could be set up very well with Cowboy Action, guns, leather, costuming, etc. Okay. But the thing about that is, that sounds like a lot, and it is. But then you're done.
Yeah, you got it.
You don't have to buy anything more, and that might include some loading equipment. And you reload, that some of the rounds that we shot. Well, I think the stuff that we shot up at Cora, I think it cost me about 14 cents a round to make. And I don't know that I've seen any cowboy stuff lately.
No, it's coming back.
It's $50 for 50 rounds.
Woof.
So that's where, we can't find any primers.
Yeah.
And the powder's starting to come back, but it's weird powder. It's like 50 BMG powder, and you go,
there's no power behind that, man.
Yeah,
we don't have one of those either. So why bother?
Yeah.
Jeez.
And so and we load those rounds about half loads.
Yeah.
So they're not stressing any of the guns. And those guns will last a long time. I mean, how many times did we shoot that 66 and that 73 up at Cora?
Quite a bit, yeah.
10 times.
Yeah.
10 times however many guys times however many rounds we shot. And that gun's just fine.
We got the extractor out of the 22 right.
Yeah.
Well, I get your point. You got a big layout initially, but then you're set. But in my case, it would be less of a layout because I would be worried about coming and looking all fancy and embarrassing myself by not being able to shoot. So I want to become proficient. Then I'll buy the kit. Then I'll, once I'm proficient, I look halfway decent on the range. Then if I solve the mystery of that right target I had trouble with last time, then I'll buy the clothes.
Going thinking back at some of the shooting that I watched you guys do. Yeah, you guys didn't have a problem hitting the targets or transitioning between targets or anything. Most of your guys' problems was going from semi-automatic handguns, which you guys are used to, to a single action revolver that you had to cock every time.
Yeah, no, you're right, and that's the thing, because we just have the muscle memory of using semi-automatic and fully automatic weapons, both rifles, pistols, and then crew serve weapons, that transitioning on the fly like that, not having done it to single action, really throws your timing off. And that's probably what it was. Being left-handed, coming over to the right, I probably overcompensated every time because, the single action. No, but I mean, with some practice, I probably get pretty good at it. Now, listen, you got a neighbor of yours there living in the leftist Hollywood center of Idaho, the Panhandle State up there. He's got a question for you, Bob. He said, was your hat made by Chaz Mitchell Custom Hats?
No.
Okay.
It was made by the Colorado Hat Company. Colorado Mountain Hat Company, and they are in Keystone.
They're south of Vail.
Yeah.
But they're in Colorado.
Yeah. No, I went down to that store one day and picked out the style and the colors, and then of course I added a band to it, and I added a stampede strings.
Yeah.
But no, this was, yeah, and then it says custom made for Long Shorty, SAS number such and such. So he put that in the hat.
That's nice.
So but they're a little pricey.
Oh, I'm sure.
But when you put it on, surprisingly enough, it fits.
Well, that's, I got to be honest here. This hat, my hair was probably about this length I mean the length it is right now when I bought this hat, which is good. But I bought a few hats in South Africa, and my hair was a bit longer before I came back and got it cut again. I had to adjust those hats down. I put them on; they fell down over my ears like that because I had all that hair on my head. So I went from a 7 1/8 probably to a 7 1/4 probably, or maybe even more. But so you mentioned it earlier. I mean, you've kind of mentioned as we've gone along before we wrap up here, but someone just asked about calibers you guys shoot. So if you could just run through some of the calibers that you fire, I mean, if that's all right.
Yeah, with SAP rules, it's pretty wide. It all depends on what you're shooting. If you're shooting black powder, so cap and ball, it'd be a 36 caliber ball or a 44 caliber ball. So those are the more common ones. For center fire ammunition, I want to make sure I get this right. It's 32 caliber or larger up to 45. Now with 32, there's a little bit of difference because there's some pocket pistol calibers which aren't match legal. Those are side match calibers that you can only use in special categories. But like 3220 is legal, although that's pretty rare to get your hands on. That's pretty old. 3840, 44 special is pretty common. 4440, 38 357 is common just because it's out there a lot, and people use that a lot. We use 45 Colt, and now recently they've just kind of amended the rules, and some of the gun companies are starting to do this. They're making single action revolvers chambered in 9mm.
Wow, seriously, 9mm. Wow.
Yeah. There's a company called Taylor and Company that has a 9mm single action revolver.
Wow,
they've actually got it to work.
That's interesting. Yeah.
And then the rifles are the same. You have to shoot pistol and rifle are the same caliber. And then with shotgun, it's pretty varied. You could go down to a 10 gauge if you wanted to, but most of the people shoot are 10 or 20. I have seen a 16 gauge every once, 12 and 20 are the common ones. I have seen a 16 gauge. There's a lady here that shoots one. I can't say I haven't seen a 28 gauge, but 12 and 20 are the more common ones. And then if you get down younger into the really young category of kids, they're allowed to shoot 410s and 22s in the matches.
Okay.
They've carved out exceptions for kids.
Couple of things. We decided when I started shooting, I decided to use a 45 caliber. My thinking was, what would I have if I was out here in 1870 or 1880? I'd have the biggest gun I could have, and that's a 45. Now, we shot with a lady from California one time when we were shooting up in Jackson, and she was shooting a 32, and she had trouble knocking some of the targets over with it. It was just so light that it would hit the metal targets, and some of them were knockdowns or some of them were those stars, and she couldn't knock those off. So you got to have a little oomph to it, and there's a power factor.
In Cowboy Action, the power factor is 60. So what you got to do is you take the weight of the bullet times the speed of the bullet divided by 1,000. That gives you your power factor.
Yeah.
On that. So the minimum is 60. Now, if you move over to wild bunch shooting, which is 1911, your main match rifle, and then a 97 pump shotgun, that moves it up your power factor to 150 for both. So it's kind of depends on what you're shooting that way.
No,
but I don't think we have a hard time mating factor at all with any of our.
Well, it's a
any of our stuff.
pretty wide range of calibers there in different sizes. By the way, so Billy Painter's the guy with me. He started this group called the Bearded Patriots, and I'm in that group, I guess, informally. But he's out there in Idaho, and then John Hutchins in Arizona. So we got some folks in the mountain states and western states out here with us tonight. John says the 410 is his favorite shotgun round. Look, I'm kind of fond of 410. It's a tiny little thing, but I mean, I use them great effect against squirrels and groundhogs and pestering neighbors. They're really good for that.
You know, we found that looking at the comparison between a 12 and a 20, which are the real common ones, and they make a lot of double barrel, you know, the old double barrel shotguns, the coach guns in those calibers for shooters. The 20 almost kicks more than the 12. And the only thing we can come up with is that the 12 is a heavier gun. And it absorbs
more of the recoil. Concussion, the recoil. Well, I got to tell you that as a young kid, I mean, one of the first things I fired was 12 gauge, and I was skinny as a rail, and the bruise in my shoulder socket from firing a 12 gauge first time I fired was like, I ain't never firing a gun again. But of course, you know, a couple days later, I was out there with a 12 gauge, a 20 gauge, 16 gauge, 410, you know, and then using pistols, you know, and so but I'm never gonna forget that, man. It's like when my horse kicked me. I had a Morgan mare. And I had to walk around behind her and came up the wrong side. She didn't like that. She reached up with her rear leg and came forward and just right on top of my thigh. Man, I thought I'd never walk again. Just paralyzed me. Didn't break anything, but it was just, you know, she stunned the nerves or whatever, and I was just dropped to the ground. And those are two incidents of doing things the wrong way as a child that I learned. You don't cradle a 12 gauge the way I cradled it the first time I fired one, unless you want a broken shoulder or
and
dislocated.
Don't sneak up behind the horse.
Well, yeah, but I mean, we were close. I thought I was good, but she didn't like it that day. I was walking around her behind. You know, usually I could walk behind her, but what would happen is we were walking along this little garden patch, and she was stubborn. She wasn't going to walk, you know, and so I was running out of space, and she just dropped me like that, man. And then she stood there and stared at me. She stopped and looked at me like, see?
Look back at you.
That's what she did. That'll learn you. I'm like, okay, all right, okay. Is that how it is? Is that how it is? Now, we got a question here from Billy. I'm not sure I understand the question. Let me read it, and then maybe I can make sense of it. He said, his wife has weak cans since she had a stroke and can't handle recoil. Is there anything stronger than a 22 long rifle that you would recommend? I mean, just for shooting, Billy, or for cowboy action shooting? I mean, maybe you're just asking for shooting. Any thoughts, guys?
You know, in my mind, there's really nothing wrong with the 22.
Yeah.
There's some firearms that we have here that with the 22, with 12 rounds, I was able to put in a 9-inch target in about 3.5 seconds. That does pretty good. When you get hit with 12 rounds of 22, somebody's going to stop and think about something that way.
Yeah, you don't need a 357 to take somebody down.
Yeah.
You'll lose a lot of interest in him getting hit with 12-22. That's fast.
And with the advances in firearm cartridge technology these days, there's a lot of options out there to make it a good choice, whether you want to have it as a plinking gun or if you want to have it as more of a self-defense. If he wants to look at there's some YouTube videos out there where guys are testing Federal Punch ammunition in 22 and 22 mag, and their performance is actually really impressive in my mind.
For self-defense,
I wouldn't feel uncomfortable carrying either one of those. You know, Smith & Wesson has come out with their Easy series of guns, which are supposed to be easy to load, easy to rack kind of deals, and they're supposed to be fairly good that way for guns. There's 380 9mm, the new 30 Super Carry, which is actually a 32 caliber, if you wanted to get into it that way. But there are some options for firearms for women, although one of the big things is you got to take her to a store to see what she likes, what fits her hand well.
Yeah.
And then see what she can handle on the range. Because I'm pretty sure there's somebody out there that they know that has a gun like that somebody'd be willing to let them try.
Yeah, no
Because
doubt.
I
about
know
it.
if somebody came up to me and said, "Hey, I've got a girl that's looking for this," I'd be like, "Well, you want to go shoot one? Let's go. Bring her with you. We're going to test it out."
Well, and the whole key to self-defense, we feel, is practice.
Hmm.
If you and it's hard to practice with a 45 ACP. I mean, it hurts my hand when you shoot, 50, 60 rounds of practice, your hand hurts.
Yeah.
Not with a 22. And so if you'll practice and can hit something, you're better off than not wanting to pick up the pistol and hurt yourself. So I think that's a good test in our mind.
I
for
think that's
self-defense
I
stuff.
think that's a good point. Absolutely. You know, I was stationed in Italy for a couple of years, and one of the things about Italy back then, which is still the case with firearms, but was certainly the case with suits and clothes back then. You know, you go to a tailor, you pull up in a warehouse, and they come out and they custom make stuff for you. Boom, they mail it to you. And same with firearms, especially shotguns. People go over to Italy, just have a shotgun made for them or a rifle made for them, custom made for them. I mean, if you can afford that sort of thing, that's nice. I mean, I wish I'd done that when I was in Italy, had one custom made for myself, because it would have been a lot easier. I lived there, could have had it delivered and then brought it back with my shipments in the Army. But, you know, it's so difficult. I mean, I used to have 30 rifles and shotguns when I lived in Ohio, but it was so difficult to maintain and keep those things over the years because I couldn't take them overseas, and I was overseas so much. But my favorite, you're going to find this odd, guys. Maybe you won't. I might have told you this last time. The favorite that I had was at a Montgomery Ward 22 long rifle, pump action, and it was really cool. I mean, it's a 22, which doesn't sound impressive, but it was such a unique thing. And it had history to it because I got it for Christmas in like 1978 or something like that, and went out on the back porch. Yeah, on the back porch and went shooting on the back porch. And the first time I fired it, the retaining pin snapped and the rod flew out in the yard. And I had never fired it. I'm like, it won't shoot again. It's because it didn't reload. So we had to fashion, we had to jerry rig and hand make. We took a pin and we cut ourselves and put it in there and kind of like soldered it in there, welded it in there, not soldered. But that was my favorite. It turns out I think it's still around. I thought it was sold off, but my sister has it. She's like, "No, I got this rifle. I think it's yours." I'm like, "You damn Skippy, that's mine. I didn't know you had it."
Well, with the shortage of ammunition, the last 2 years at least, and maybe 3, we've shot 22s.
Yeah.
At our cowboy matches, and we brought some 22s up to Cora.
Yeah.
And you don't feel bad about shooting 50 rounds of those.
Yeah. It's not they're not that expensive. It's not that big a deal.
And it's not going to hurt you.
Yeah.
And we've got a set of pistols that are single action. It looks just like our guns you shot.
Yep.
And the rifle, we shot that rifle up there till what broke on it?
The extractor broke on the 22 rifle. I had to send it back to the
We sent it back to them. They fixed it.
They fixed it for free and sent it back within a couple of days. So.
There you go.
Yeah.
Well, after I came back from there, the next time I went to Harrisburg, because we have the farm show. It's in January. It's huge. Everything goes there. It's not just farming, but it's all sorts of stuff: camping, bow hunting, rifles, shotguns, pistols, everything. All the big manufacturers are there. Of course, you got Beretta, you got Mossberg. Oh my God, I was in heaven walking through the Mossberg. I almost walked out of there with a couple shotguns, man. I'm telling you, it was something else. It was incredible. But there were also Cowboy Action Shooters there. They're here in PA. I had no idea. I mean, I first really got and opened up to the concept with you guys. I came back here, and we've got them on this side of the country too. I was kind of surprised. I mean, I get Cowboy Action Shooters in the mountain states and out west, but I didn't realize it's all over the country.
Yeah, they're all over the country. There's a couple of groups up in Canada, although with the way that the Canadian government is now handling guns, that might be an issue.
Yeah.
The last I knew, there were some contingents in Europe, Australia, New Zealand, and then there's a bunch in South Africa.
I'll have to, next time I go, I'll have to link up with some of those Cowboy Action Shooters. I don't know if you guys know this, but Dan, you might know, because I think you watch my show periodically, at least occasionally. I have always greatly respected beekeepers, how important bees are to agriculture and things. So I always wanted to be a beekeeper. My grandfather did that. But anyway, I finally got a chance. Michigan State offered free course at Michigan State through the agricultural school. The tuition was free. It was like $8,000 if you had to pay for it. So I took the course last year and I graduated in December, and I'm officially a beekeeper. I call myself an apprentice beekeeper, but I'm a beekeeper. But I have no bees, and it's wintertime here. Can't really start a hive. So the first time I touched bees was in South Africa. I went to Somerset West and went out with beekeepers, and it was kind of hot because it's summertime down there. And they're African bees, so they're pissy little shits. They're not friendly like European honeybees, man. And to tell you how they are, everybody there except me got stung. Yeah, but maybe I should do the same thing with the Cowboy Action Shooters. Look up some of those folks in South Africa and go out with them and film that. That'd be pretty cool. Of course, I can't put it on YouTube because I'll get censored, but I'll put it on Rumble or something like that.
Yeah, there you go. I think you can probably find a list of that stuff on the SAS website.
Okay, I'll check it out.
I think it's SAS.
Yeah, well, hold on just a sec. I got an iPad. Put a link to it.
An iPad? What kind of cowboy are you with an iPad?
Really?
I got it at one point so I could travel while I was doing
cowboy.
So,
I think you'd be surprised at how many ranchers carry iPads now.
Oh no! I get it. I'm just joking. It's the 21st century. That's like
keep track of their cows and all that.
Weather, meteorological patterns, and all that stuff. Snowfall, rainfall coming. But I remember years ago, Bill Engvall was doing his bit, and he was talking about. He said, staying up with the times. He said, he went out. He was going out to the store, and his daughter said, "Dad, could you pick me up some bare naked ladies?" And he's like, "Don't tell your mama." Sure, just don't tell your mom I'm picking up bare naked ladies.
Don't tell mom.
Oh my goodness, that's too funny. Yeah. Did you find something, Dan?
yeah, I put it on there's a link in the chat, so you could go and look at by country and by state if you wanted to. And
okay. It's in our chat. It's not okay. Hang on.
Yeah, no, in the YouTube chat. Sorry.
Oh no, I don't see it in the YouTube chat. You guys see it? I don't see it. I don't see the link. Oh no, you put a link. Dan. You're not. Just type something in. I'll make you a moderator. You have to be a moderator to put a link in. Sorry. So just type some text in there so I can make you a moderator real quick, and then we'll put the link in.
Mm-hmm.
There you go. Test that. There you go. That's the time honored way to do it. So you're a moderator now. It should. Okay. Now post your link. It should go in there. You'll have a little wrench next to your name when you type it in again. It's time. All right. That's what happened. Yeah. I didn't even see your message go in there. So there you go. All right. I'll leave you in as a moderator.
That should give you worldwide information.
Okay. Anybody wants to check it out? There you go.
Yeah, that is the club finder itself. If you go to their main page, you could look and see what the rules are. You could go look at other matches all over the place. I think they just had the world match in Phoenix done the end of last month. So,
and SAS is moving some stuff. They moved one of their big shoots back east to Illinois.
No, they did around COVID because New Mexico wouldn't let them do anything there, so they moved it to Illinois. But then they moved that match. They moved the national match from Phoenix to Oklahoma in the middle of the summer, which would probably be absolutely fantastic. And then they moved the world match from Arizona or from New Mexico in the middle of the summer to Phoenix in like February. So,
well, but Phoenix in February is not bad, but Oklahoma in the summertime is going to be brutal.
No, yeah. Well, they had when they were doing the world match in New Mexico, it was in the middle or end of July. So, but good thing it's a dry heat.
Well, it is. I used to live in Arizona, man. It's a dry heat down that side. But Chris Ellingson in South Africa says his bees chased him for about 20 minutes a few weeks ago. He said African bees are so pissy because they have to deal with honey badgers. Well, I'm so pissy because I have to deal with rhinos and Democrats.
But if you start getting bees and start making honey, you can start making your own mead. and then you wouldn't be so pissy.
Well, I don't want to say pissy. I should say salty. I'm salty.
Okay, well, that works. But still, I think mead would solve that problem, wouldn't it?
Guys, Billy Painter's trying to poach you as my guest and get you on his program with my turncoat co-host for my radio show, John Grosvenor. He'd like to get you on a show called the Patriot Confederation. If you don't mind, I'll share your contact information with him, Dan, if that's all right.
Yeah, I was going to say, you have the...
Well, I got your number.
Yeah, that works, or... Yeah, that's fine.
I think I've got your email, too, somewhere.
Yeah, no, or, Telegram, or not Telegram, but...
WhatsApp.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, you got to have the...
Or just texting works fine.
Texting works.
Modern cowboy.
Texting works fine up here because the telegraph is a little slow.
Telegraph or telegram?
And both.
Yikes. Anyway, guys, I'll share that with Billy Painter. He'll probably get you on that program. So listen, before we wrap up, it's great having you back. We need to do this, not wait so long next time. I know Dan's reached out to me a few times, asked me. He didn't want to pester me because I had a lot going on, but I meant to get them on for a long time. And in fact, we talked about it last week, but the timing wasn't quite right. And then this week got away from me, and I reached out to Dan last night and said, Dan, can you do it tomorrow? He's like, sure, if you want to. And here we are. But we should do this. We shouldn't wait so long next time. I gotta be honest though. I mean, I think the star of the show is Ginger. She stole the show, trying to get your attention. Bob there kept looking up at you the whole time, really getting everybody's eyes on you.
Now.
But why don't I give you guys a chance to share anything you might want to share there before we take off there. Dan, any last words or thoughts about Cowboy Action Shooting, or just anything in general? You want to promote Wyoming, anything like that?
No, Wyoming isn't real, number one. Or Wyoming's full and Nebraska's nice. That works.
He doesn't want anybody moving there.
No, Cowboy Action is a lot of fun. I'm pretty sure some people would. I know Cowboy Action is kind of sadly, it's a dying sport, or kind of a dying game. I'm probably on the younger end of the spectrum of things, being in my mid-30s. So there's always they're always trying to get more people into it. And there's nothing wrong with shooting, no matter what anybody says. It's always a good skill to have. So there's that. And like I was speaking with you last night on WhatsApp, we can't show videos or anything of firearms and stuff like that, but I'll have to get in touch with you about my Rumble idea and get that going and see if that happens, and maybe if your viewership would be interested in seeing some of that, or sharing links with them for those videos and stuff like that too.
Yeah, I think we have some videos of stage shooting, and then we have some videos of side match shooting, which is kind of a real fun thing. Not many clubs do that anymore. It's a lot of work to get those side matches set up because they're specialized things. There's speed shotgun and speed.
There's Derringer that you have some fun.
Oh yeah, that was fun. That was fun. The Derringer. I mean, that was the last thing I ever expected. I'd never fired a Derringer before. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, we understood that everybody really enjoyed the shooting except for the Derringer up there. Everybody complained about the Derringer.
I heard a couple of mumbles in the back as everybody else was going like, I don't like that guy.
Nah, I was all right. It was a unique experience. I never would have. So I actually enjoyed it because it was a unique experience.
Well, and they shoot it at a paper plate at like 5 feet, and you shoot 4 times, which means a reload, which is always very difficult because those barrels rotate, and you got to make sure you don't sweep yourself with the barrel loading them and that. So it's a lot of fun. The thing that I should say, I guess, is that if people want to try cowboy shooting, go find a club. And I would bet a nickel that if you called up one of these guys that's listed as a club and say, I don't have anything, I just want to come and shoot. You know, if they
don't show up and watch.
or just show up and watch is what I did to start. But when I was there watching, I bet I had, the first time I ever went to one of those, I bet 4 or 5 guys came up to me and said, here's my gun.
Yeah.
Here's the ammo. Come, I'll help you through a stage. You know, they just want you to come and shoot and have fun. And you don't win anything. You know, it's just a lot of fun. Like Daniel, he shoots what they call gunfighter, which is the only category that you can have both pistols out of the holster at the same time, and you shoot right, left, right, or right, whatever you shoot. And that took him quite a while to perfect. He shot what was called double duelist, which is right hand, right gun, left gun, till he got his left hand shooting better than his right hand.
And he's not left-handed.
And then yeah. and then all of a sudden, you know, when he pulled both pistols out when we were shooting against the police here in town, he pulled both pistols out and beat them. You know, and those guys are going, what are you doing? We can't shoot that way. Well, you become a better shooter when you can do those kinds of things.
Yeah.
And Cowboy Action is really a doorway into that kind of stuff. And I don't know that you need any. If we were to say somebody was coming out, we'd say, we're going to bring extra guns and extra ammo for you. You come shoot with us. You know, we just have fun when people are there having fun. So
yeah, no, it's excellent.
Go find a club and go shoot with them.
Well, guys, I mean, look, I can endorse it as someone that didn't do it. I mean, obviously, I'm someone very familiar with firearms, but I'd never done cowboy action shooting, and I did. Like I said, I didn't say anything, but I was like, oh God, what are we gonna do here? This is jeez. I mean, look, we're all in the Army, man. We know what firearms are. Oh my God, it was such fun! It was incredible.
We took you back to the Stone Age with what we had compared to what you guys play with.
Oh yeah, that's true.
I think, you know, the night before when we were kind of going over how to shoot, not many people paid attention.
No, nobody was listening to you guys that night.
Daniel was timing those guys, and you'd see them pull the trigger. They could cock that first one and pull the trigger, and then they'd wait.
And it did
go, you
gotta
cock
it
again.
Now that part I was listening to, so I was ready for that. Plus,
Yeah.
I didn't go first, so I got to watch other guys make mistakes.
Yeah.
But again,
I hope everybody had fun. I'd really like to do that again sometime if they pull that together, but I don't know what's going to happen there. You know, I assume that it was good for the guys that were there.
Oh, it was. It was really good from a couple standpoints. Number one, it was a good icebreaker because guys got to see each other and you had a little jostling about who did well and that sort of thing. So it was great from that standpoint. Plus, I mean, it opened guys' eyes. You know, I mean, some of these guys hadn't been around a firearm since they left the service. You know, I mean, some guys with PTSD and things like that. It's not something, you know, that they just do. Other guys, I mean, you know, they're ranchers, they're cops, and you know, they're whatever. They're messing with firearms all the time. Or going to turkey shoots or something like that. But I mean, for a lot, it was a great experience, and I don't know whose idea it was, but it was brilliant to ask you guys to come out. It was really fantastic. Really had a good time. Let me get one last question here from Billy up in Idaho, and I don't know if he's asking this from a cowboy action thing. You don't carry your firearms that way. But he said another question: What are the pros and cons of having your pistols butts out like Wild Bill Hickok?
Yeah.
Look at Dan. Look at Dan just shaking his head, man.
You know, well, I have a problem with it because there's a safety issue.
Yeah, that's my first thought.
On my end. SAS came around and switched the rules a couple of years ago to allow it for gunfighter and gunfighter only. So you can carry butt forward. But my problem is, how do you not sweep yourself when you pull the guns? Because you're coming out backwards. But they did say there are 2 acceptable ways to do it, and they made a video of it, and I don't know what happened to the video, where you could pull and then you push out with your guns upside down and then rotate them. And then there's another way, I can't remember what it was. But the problem is one of the main tenets of gun safety is you always assume the gun's loaded.
Yep.
At all times. What do you do when you're putting the guns back? Same thing with the guys that shoot cross drop.
Yeah.
They're supposed to turn their whole body because there's a 170-degree rule down the firing line.
Yep.
That you're supposed to turn your body so you can put the gun back in the holster. Well, SAPs are starting to let that slide to where people will shoot the gun, they'll come and grab it with their offhand and turn it and get it into their holster on the side. You're still sweeping yourself. You're sweeping the people to the side of
That's dangerous, yeah.
And butt forward, I don't know if there was anybody else that carried the gun butt forward besides Wild Bill Hickok or anybody in the cavalry back in the 1870s.
I agree with you. It's a real safety issue from my perspective. And it's kind of like, people are like, if you're left-handed, that pistol's on your left side, right hand's the right side. And people are like, yeah, but you got to come up. I'm like, no, you come up with positive control. Two-hand grip when you come up just like this. Right. And this comes straight up, and this is actually faster than whipping this thing out from here or, something like that. This, if you're trained, this is so much faster and so much more accurate. One of the things before we go, guys, I'll tell you that I did, and I don't know if I mentioned this last time, but in the Army, if you're sent to a high-risk area, terrorism, kidnapping, that sort of thing, you go to a course which is taught by Special Forces, and I did that. It's individual terrorism awareness course is what they call it, but it's not just about terrorism. It's also about anti-kidnapping and what to do when your car is rammed. So we get to drive cars at 55 and stomp on the ABS, and the instructor's like, go left, you got to go left, and you go right, you got to let off the brakes, and then you go basically like a demolition derby where you're driving and they come and try to hit you from the side and spin you around. It's really cool, a lot of fun. But the best part for me was firing over 500 rounds with a 9mm in one day. Kept swapping out 9mm because what you do is you shoot at targets less than 6 feet away. And people are like, why would you shoot at targets 6 feet away? Everybody hits. No. Most people will miss a target 6 to 10 feet away in the first couple rounds. Because they pull it out, they're not under control. I mean, only people who are really experienced and practice this. So we get to fire 500 rounds at targets just a couple feet away. And I saw it with guys who were experienced marksmen in the military, but they had never done that before. Now, I had done some of that stuff at, range shooting when I was a kid. So, I mean, it wasn't brand new to me, but it was still a lot of fun. But guys would missing the target. They're hitting the paper, but it's not hitting the silhouette. Because they just and they had to stop them after the first time they emptied the magazine and explain to them, okay, now slow down, all right, and you just practice it. But I'll tell you what, that was the best part, and here was the even better part. When the day was over, we didn't have to clean the firearms.
Yeah,
that is the best part.
That's right.
How can we find that? How can we find one of those guys for us?
And I'm pretty sure that was the good part that you liked in court because the guns came back. And I went downstairs, and I was the one cleaning them.
Well, that's true. We didn't clean them in core either. I forgot about that.
No, I did.
No,
that should have been the second stage of that.
Yeah. But it should have been. We should all been down there cleaning them. It would have been no big deal sitting there in that big dining area. We could have cleaned them all together. But no. For me, I did. That was. I think I thought about that night, but then I forgot about it quickly because I was just so excited that I was able to handle that single action. Except for that damn target, it was up front on the right.
Well, I would bet a nickel that what you did was just exactly what you thought as you came across.
Yeah.
You just went past it.
Yeah, that's what I did, and it probably got worse because I missed it once or twice, and I got more pronounced. I'm gonna hit it now, boom. Yeah, and it's ironic because the other one's like, what's that?
Yeah.
I was going to say, don't feel bad. You saw me miss a couple of targets after when I shot too.
Oh yeah. No. There was some talking up about how good.
I'll call myself out on that one.
Yeah, there was some talking about how good Dan was, and then he went. Did you do the firing two at the same time?
Yeah. I did gunfighter at the same time, but I missed the rifles.
Yeah, that's right. Which should be the easiest one, right?
Yeah. But when you get going, I don't know how fast he was, even with two misses compared to everybody else.
Oh, he's still faster.
But I would bet that he probably beat everybody else with two misses.
Yeah, no. Easy.
But you get that, and that is one of those things that happen is when you get to going, and you know how fast that lever gun will work. It goes pretty darn fast. I mean, I'm not I'm not going to shoot it like an AR, but I'm going to shoot it right in there with those guys at just a dumb target. But that's what happens is you come across and you just keep going. You know,
Oops, looks like we might have lost them. Guys, you still there? Yeah, it looks like we lost them, folks. Can you guys still see me? Hang on a second. Let me fix this. I think we lost them there. I'm not sure what happened there. All right, guys, can you still see me on the camera? We've lost them there for a moment. Am I broadcasting? Anyway. All right. Yeah, well, we were about to end anyway there, folks. So it was time to wrap up here in a couple minutes anyway. So maybe we'll end a little bit early unless they pop back up. Maybe that snow hit the tower. Looks like he's trying to come back up. There they are. There they are.
there we go. Yeah. We froze up, or somebody did.
Yeah, it must be the snowfall.
Well, it's probably, yeah. That's right. If you don't like the weather out here, just wait a while. It'll change.
Well, I was going to say, and Dan was doing his best to convince people not to move to Wyoming. That was pretty cool. I like that. Well, the snow is bad.
I like the one that says, Wyoming's full, but we hear Nebraska's nice.
Yeah. Well, Colorado's nice. And go down with those lefty liberals and enjoy yourself down there.
Oh, boy. Colorado is a red hot mess down there.
Yeah, it is indeed. All right, gents, we'll wrap it up here, okay? And I'll pass your contact, Dan, along to Billy Painter up there in Idaho, and maybe get you on that program. Thank you all very much. Be safe out there in Wyoming, one of my favorite places in the world, and it's good making contact with you. And thanks for being guests on the program tonight. Really appreciate it.
Sure. Well, we hope that we were interesting enough that we get to come back, or people will like us. You know.
Oh yeah, definitely. Definitely. And,
I don't like the.
Sorry.
If they don't like us, then don't watch us next time.
No, it's fine. But Bob, thanks. And Dan, just reach out to me, and I'll help you with the Rumble if you got questions or trying to sort it out and get you started. Okay.
Okay. All right. Sounds good. I appreciate it.
All right, guys. That's it's Bob and Dan Bailey out there in Wyoming. Thank you very much, gentlemen. I'm gonna go ahead and shut us off the screen and wrap it up right here. I'll put you guys in the waiting room. You don't have to run off if you want to hang out and chat with me a minute. Otherwise, if you want to drop off, you can do that. But I'm just gonna put you in the waiting room so that I can wrap up the program. Here we go. All right, folks, that was the Cowboy Action Shooters from Wyoming. It was Bob and Dan Bailey, as I said. Thanks for tuning in. Appreciate your support. Be sure to hit a like button on this, and if you found the content interesting, let me know. It's been a couple years since we had them on. Last time was a lot of fun. I think this time was quite enjoyable as well. I've got some other guests coming up next week, so I hope you enjoy it. Thank you all for tuning in, and this is the third broadcast today, so I'm kind of knackered. You all have a lovely evening. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll catch you next time here on Chris Wyatt Africa on the Indaba Africa channel. It's always a pleasure, folks. Take care of yourselves, and don't trust a commie. All right, be careful out there.